FYI, you won't make it unless you get in here soon.
Welcome, FNusa57 here. Once again, I'm back on my Xbox Series X, and today I will be showing you a pretty cool new glitch, what I like to call the Ghost Deck glitch, that actually allows you to have pretty much exactly as the name sounds, 2 decks of cards active at the same time, or up to 2 decks of cards, or over at the same point, active at the same point in time. Currently, this is in Back 4 Blood, and it does work on all difficulties. You are going to need some friends to play with. I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like having these 2 decks active at the same time, and then go ahead and explain exactly how you do it. So, we are on Nightmare difficulty. It doesn't really matter exactly what you have as far as your team comp. There are going to be a few intricacies to exactly getting this to work. So basically, as you can see right now, I have all of my decks cards, and then I have a whole bunch of extra stamina and a whole bunch of extra health, giving me increased health, increased stamina capacity. So, in order to actually do this, what you're going to need to do is first and foremost have 2 decks that you want to have active at the same time. Secondly, you're going to need a team. Up to 3 players can do this. You don't really have to do it, but it's up to you. In order to get it to work, what you need to do is start up, select 1 deck, have the host not select anything, and then go ahead and pick your cards, leave, get invited back, pick your second deck, and pick your cards. So I'll explain that in detail because it's easy, but it's a little bit easy to mess up. Now, there are a few rules that you do need to keep in mind when doing this. First and foremost, you need to keep in mind that the host cannot leave the game. Secondly, you need to keep in mind that only 1 player can do this at a time. And thirdly, you need to keep in mind that certain character abilities, innate perks, like Carly's ability to hold 2 toolkits at the same time without any other modifying cards, that can break. More often it breaks than it doesn't break. So what we're going to do right now is I'm coming back in on the same character, but I'm going to select the deck that I didn't have on. So I had my shooter deck on. Now I'm going to select my pipe bomb or boss deck, which is my secondary deck. And then we are going to go ahead and have all of these massive card draws. We actually have 39 card draws, which allows us to grab all of the cards that we had in the deck, all 15 cards in the deck, and on top of that, now we can just grab all of these extra draws. It really makes it so that you're pretty darn OP because you can just keep stacking the amount of stamina and health that you have, in addition to having, well, a full 15 cards, plus on top of that, having all of both decks active.
I know what's out there.
It sounds a little weird, definitely a little funky, and it's gonna take a minute to get set up and get used to it, but it's entirely personal preference what you wish to do. Doesn't really matter. I'm just here to thoroughly explain exactly how to do this, simply because of the fact that there are things that don't work with it. So now you're going to see that I have all of my grenade cards from my grenade deck, in addition to the 11 stamina and the 16 health. If you look, I don't have any of my shooter cards, but I do have the bonus. If I crouch, you'll notice I have down in front active. So basically, the deck that we had previously selected is now a ghost deck. and it keeps going back and forth like that, allowing you to eventually gain more cards faster. I'll show you from the start right after we finish this up real quick.
See that?
Because there's a lot of things that make it a little bit crazy. And it doesn't always work. It gets a little funky when you have 3 people doing it, but it does work. You can use it. You don't have to use it to beat Nightmare because they did make Nightmare easier, but it definitely makes Nightmare a ton easier if you use it. Shout out to Flash, DR, and Blue for helping me with the Nightmare achievements. I do have to say that Flash found this glitch, and I am just expanding in greater detail exactly how it works. Got hit by a hawker.
You're not impressing anyone. Watch my back.
I could use that.
Here for. Gotta have a weakness. Watch out! Time to die!
What if these things take so long to die? Look at him! Nothing like that! Probably not very much.
All right, nicely done. All right, so you basically already seen exactly how the glitch works and exactly what the glitch is. The glitch is, in fact, a ghost deck. Now, there are a few other things to explain about it. So, in order to use it, really the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make 2 decks that complement each other. You are going to want to have either like a melee and health deck, or double dock decks, or really there's any kind of different possible combination depending on your playstyle. For me, personally, I have a gun deck with just a little hint of support with the Copper Scavenger and Weapon Scavenger cards, and then I also have a bomb deck for killing bosses, which is basically a pure grenade deck with the exception of Tactical Vest, Patient Hunter, which are more gun related. You can double stack cards, I should mention that. So for instance, if you have the same card in both decks, you can double stack that. Like if you had cross trainers in both decks, you could have, instead of 20% stamina, you could have 20% stamina and 20% stamina, so you'd have 40% stamina. There's definitely a few different things like that that you can do. Personal preference at the end of the day, though. There are a few things I would not recommend. I would not necessarily recommend any of the disables aim down sights or disables sprint. I also would not really recommend doubling up on anything that is like negative damage percentage or, you know, really high negatives, because if you double up on those cards, like Glass Cannon, if you doubled up on Glass Cannon, you would be doing technically 50% more damage, but you would be negative 60% health. So just keep that in mind when you are trying to pick the cards that you want. A card that's good to have always is Combat Knife. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility, but it really depends upon your build and your personal playstyle. The other thing to keep in mind is any card that you find, whether it be a random intel or intel that is purchasable in the open world, you can actually pick it up and then it is going to become a random card draw. Now, Flash and I are still testing whether or not when you buy a random intel card, like say if you bought Silver Bullets, and then you went and switched decks and switched backs, if you actually would still have, in fact, the purchased Silver Bullets benefit, or if it simply becomes another free card draw. From my testing right now, it seems like it simply becomes another card draw from your deck. So I'll go through and show you, starting off from the very beginning of an act, exactly how the setup on this glitch works, and let you decide. As far as the usability, it definitely makes the game a little more fun because you get all your cards right away. So if you're just looking to kind of have fun and shoot Ridden, it's a super awesome glitch out there, but I would say use it while you can, because this will more than likely be patched as soon as possible, unless the devs just decide to leave it in and let us have bonus cards. Of course, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask and I'll do my best to help you out. Alright, so now I will be showing you exactly how to set this up from the start of a fresh act. And a fresh act and the end of an act is where you will see the absolute most benefit of this. So any character that is going to go ahead and do the glitch, you set up, and the host just sits on this screen, does not pick any cards, does not pick any deck. So you want to pick the deck first that you want the most cards from. In that case, I'm going to be going with my shooting deck, and then we're going to go ahead and lock in. You'll get, of course, your mutators, starting cards, all of that, and then you'll be able to pick your basic draws. So for this, I'm starting off with 3 draws. I do love Shredder. We'll make some more money with Copper Scavenger, and we'll look for the best weapons with Weapon Scavenger, and then we're going to go ahead and lock that in. Once we've locked that in, we're going to drop our weapons on the ground. We're just going to drop everything on the ground, and you want to do this with friends simply due to the fact that since you're dropping your stuff on the ground, you can, well, lose it. Then one person goes ahead and leaves the game and comes back, and when that person comes back, you can go ahead and leave the game and come back. As soon as you leave the game, you can get an invite back to the game, or you can join off of the party if the person's in your friends list or you're all in a party. And when you come back in, you're going to pick the same character, but you're going to pick your secondary deck, and you will still have all of the cards from your first pick. They'll just be invisible, and you'll have the cards from your second pick. It's very easy to do this. It's just a little bit hard to understand if it's not thoroughly explained, because half of the cards are invisible. So you'll notice that I picked my bomb deck now, which means I'll have the starting card, and on top of that, I have 2 cards that I can pick here. So obviously we're going to grab that explosive damage, and we will also grab the offensive inventory. This way we have explosive damage cards, and we have the grenade pouch card. Well, the double grenade pouch. At which point, when you come back in, you're going to want to make sure that you grab anything that you want as far as ammo. We don't really have that much though, so you'll have full ammo in the beginning. It's not that big of a deal. You'll also get a little bit more copper, sometimes, not always. And then there's another toolkit on the ground, and I have 2 on me. So there's certain abilities like Carly's ability, pretty much any character's abilities like that can become buggy. Mom's extra lives, Carly's ability to carry multiple toolkits, Evangelo's breakout ability, and it can switch to random players. Now, if you're fast enough, it is entirely possible to get all 3 additional players outside of the host to go ahead and have multiple ghost decks. You can only have 1 ghost deck active in addition to your visible deck, so just keep that in mind. And the game does get a little bit buggy if you have all 3 people with the glitch going on at the same time. So I would say have a melee tank build and a boss killer shooter build. If you do that, you should be fine to clear literally any mission on Nightmare difficulty. And then you'll switch back on the next mission and do the opposite. Effectively, you do keep the extra cards if you use continues, but it is a bit complicated, so it doesn't work out as well. It does work, but it doesn't work as well. There's the extra 250 copper. Also, I should mention that team upgrades should only be purchased by the host because of the fact that if you go ahead and buy a team upgrade and leave the game as anyone other than the host, you lose that team upgrade. And if you don't drop your stuff on the ground, you lose it when you switch. And then you just keep going back and forth on the decks. It's super simple, very easy to do. You just have to be quick on the load times, quick on the invites, especially quick if you're going to get everyone, like all 3 players through it, but personal preference. And then you'll notice I don't have any cards. I don't have down in front, but if I crouch, I definitely have the down in front icon, and I can shoot my teammates without actually dealing damage to them. So it's a very, very useful glitch. I don't know exactly why it works like this, but it, well, does work. Now, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to help you guys out. I hope I have explained exactly what the glitch is and how to do it in a very easy to understand manner. If I didn't and I missed something, by all means, let me know. Of course, if you can, drop a like and go ahead and share the video with your friends. That does greatly help me out with the searchability of videos here on YouTube. And if you have any further questions, just, well, as I've said before, let me know. Now, the last thing to say is you will be switching back and forth on your decks. So just keep that in mind, that you are switching back and forth on your decks. So if you have, we'll call gun deck, deck number 1, and we will call the bomb deck, deck number 2. So if you start on deck number 1 and then cycle to deck number 2, at the next mission, you're going to cycle after you pick your card from the deck number 2. You're going to cycle out, and when you come back in, you're going to cycle back in to deck number 1. Now, a very important thing to note, just in case anyone did not understand my explanation of it, the way that this works, at least with my current testing, if anyone has information otherwise, please let me know. Share it with the community. But just the way that it works is the cards that you pick and that show up in your starting cards, they are not permanently active as others have explained. So the cards that I picked from deck 1, for instance, are not permanently active. They are only active for this run. And then the cards that I pick from the next run, or from Like, dude, these damn freaking screamers. I got hit by a stalker, and then the screamer was too close. That was unfortunate. Sorry, trying to explain and make it through here at the same time is not the easiest. But yes, hopefully you guys can follow that a little bit. And I was a little confused when I was first told about this, because the cards are not, in fact, permanent. It's just that they can be selected, which means that you can get your entire deck much, much faster, as opposed to being stuck with just the starting couple of cards.
Watch the fire. Another day in paradise.
And as always, it does get crazy. I mean, it's definitely better than what it was, but it does get crazy when you are playing on Nightmare difficulty in the very beginning, because playing on Nightmare difficulty in the very beginning, you just simply don't get enough cards. So you just can't have all of your upgrades and all of your damage. But this definitely makes it interesting. It makes it a very interesting way to play the game. It makes it a lot easier if you just want to get your achievements, or your Z-SWAT skins, whatever you want to pronounce it as. But definitely having a super coordinated team helps out a shitload with it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and you will enjoy many more. There's also a link in the description if you wish to check out Flash's original video. By all means, drop a like on that as well. And I hope that this more in-depth video answers any and all questions that you may possibly have about how this particular glitch works and how to execute it. Until next time, stay frosty.